On The Young and the Restless, tomorrow, Friday, August 1st, 2025, when Billy and Jack face the music. We've got the photo spoilers of what's coming up. Jack and Diane share a laugh at home. Probably a good thing since they lose their smiles around some other people today. When Billy comes to talk to Jack, he's none too pleased that, once again, Jack thinks he can tell Billy what to do. Billy's had enough of it and wants Jack to either treat him like an adult or he can de-invest from Abbott Communications. On Friday, Jack makes a sacrifice for Billy. Will he stay invested and try to keep his opinions to himself? Tessa takes Arya to the park to play. She's been struggling being split from Mariah. Tessa's happy to run into Daniel. He promised he'd be there for her as she needed a friend, and she said the same to him. So far, they've both kept their end of the deal. Daniel puts his own needs aside to listen to Tessa and help her out. Phyllis is pleased to see Daniel and Tessa spending time together. Daniel last saw his mom when she was heading to France for a trip he didn't think she should make. Phyllis, however, hoped the trip would be life-changing as she planned to befriend Aristotle Dumas, and so he could help her get her life back on track. But not only did Aristotle turn out to be Cain Ashby, but Phyllis promised Cain she would turn on Billy for him. But then Billy asked her to partner up with him and Cain. Even if she told Daniel a fraction of that, he wouldn't be pleased. Needless to say, on Friday, Daniel is skeptical of Phyllis's latest plan. Diane and Phyllis run into one another at the coffee house, and as usual, they can't help but take some swipes at one another. Will Diane motivate Phyllis to work with Cain even more? Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching! So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless scoop for Thursday, July 31st, reveals Nick Newman will give Sharon Newman some hope. Y&R, spoilers tease, the Abbotts will arrive home. Diane Jenkins will say her heart breaks for Chance Chancellor and Damian Kane's families. Diane and Jack Abbott will decide to go out for breakfast. Kyle will say he needs to see Claire. At Society, Audra will tell Nate she's so sorry about Damian. She'll add she's still in shock and wishes she'd never gone to Nice. Everyone who took part in that disaster regrets going. Then she'll ask how Amy Lewis is handling her son's death. Not well, Nate will reply. She seems to have shut down. Audra will be worried. Nate will tell her Damian's body is being flown to Chicago, and he and Amy are headed there in the afternoon. Nate will add he had a surprise for Damian when he got back. He'd set up his new office at Winters. There was so much we were looking forward to doing together, now he's gone. Diane and Jack will walk in and express their condolences to Nate. Audra will say she was just telling Nate what a shocking and disturbing trip it was. Yes, Diane will reply, there were so many disturbing surprises. Meanwhile, Victor, Nikki Newman, Nick and Sharon will walk into the Newman ranch. Nikki will say it's so good to be home. Nick will ask Sharon if she's okay. I'm still thinking about Chance, she'll reply. Nick will say Summer Newman is gutted, and so is Abby Newman. Victor will say he texted Adam Newman and Victoria Newman, and they'll be there shortly. You really think the threat Cain poses to Chancellor is that imminent? Nikki will ask. Victor will say it is. Plus, Victoria and Claire need their support. At the TAC house, Victoria will say Victor called, and they're all gathering at the main house. Claire will say she's not going. What I need right now is to see Kyle. But Victoria will tell her Victor's not going to see it that way. Claire and Kyle will arrange to meet at the park. When she sees him, she'll race into his arms and embrace him. She'll say she wants to hear about everything. There's plenty of time to talk about Nice, but right now, I want to hear about you, he'll reply. But Claire will say she wants to hear about where things stand with her grandfather, and she'll ask what happened in France. Plus, she'll want to know what proposal he made Victor. Kyle won't want to talk about it. Don't tell me things are worse now than they were before you went, she'll reply. Kyle will say they rarely crossed paths. Claire will say she finds it hard to believe Victor didn't escalate his attack on him. Then Nate and Audra will come along. Kyle will tell Nate he has his deepest sympathies. And Claire, you have mine, Audra will add. Kyle will ask Audra how Vibrante's doing after her setbacks. He'll ask if her investor has pulled out. The crisis has been averted, she'll reply nervously. Then Claire and Kyle will leave, and Nate will ask Audra what that was all about. Audra will make up an excuse. "I got the feeling this was more than Kyle getting in a few digs," Nate will say. Back at the ranch, Victoria will show up and embrace her parents. They'll express their condolences about Cole Howard. Victor will say he's anxious to see Claire. Victoria will promise she's going to stop by later. "Oh, I see. So she went to see Kyle Abbott before she went to see her family," he'll reply. Victoria will say he has to let it go. She'll say she and Claire and shattered, yet he continues to go after her daughter and Kyle. Then Claire will walk in, and she'll immediately go to Victor and hug him. Finally, Sharon will make her way towards the door. Nick will ask where she's going. She was invited, and she's part of the family. Sharon will tell him they have a lot to discuss about what happened on the trip. "What do we have to discuss?" he'll ask. "Are we ever going to talk about that kiss?" Sharon will reply. Nick will say they could talk about it. "Or we could wait and see if it happens again." But will it? The young and the restless spoilers hint that a golden mother-daughter love triangle opportunity could be looming. Should Y&R go there with Victoria Newman, Nate Hastings, and Claire Newman? In the aftermath of Cole Howard's demise, Nate was there for both Claire and Victoria. Fans watched as Nate did his best to offer some comfort to each woman. Of course, Nate ultimately got Claire and Victoria's sympathy over Damian Kane's grim fate as well. Grief is something that can connect these three characters since they're all having a rough time right now. Victoria and Nate have a dating history, so it seems like a no-brainer to revisit them as a pairing sooner or later. Although Victoria will need a chance to mourn the loss of Cole, she may fall for Nate again in the coming months. However, things could get complicated if Claire's bond with Nate deepens too. Now that Kyle Abbott is keeping secrets about what happened with Audra Charles in Nice, he could be setting the stage for a romantic blow-up. Likewise, Nate and Audra's own romance seems poised to explode, so he should end up single right along with Claire. Both Claire and Nate will feel the sting of betrayal, so that's something that could bring them together. Since there'll be good reasons for Nate to strengthen his bond with Claire and Victoria, Y&R has the prime mother-daughter love triangle opportunity. It'd be a great chance to put Victoria's relationship with Claire to the test and stir up some tension between them. Bottom line, viewers are already seeing a sense of growing closeness for Nate and Victoria, as well as Nate and Claire. The show might deliver some juicy romantic drama if a love triangle is involved down the road. The Young and the Restless recap for Thursday, July 31st, reveals that Kyle Abbott will hide the Audra Charles truth from Claire Newman, while Nick Newman dodges Sharon Newman's kiss talk. After Victor Newman, Nikki Newman, Nick and Sharon all return home. They'll await Claire and Victoria Newman's arrival. At the Tack House, Victoria will give Claire updates on their family's homecoming, but Claire will insist on going to meet with Kyle first. Despite Victoria's warning that Victor isn't going to like it, nothing will change Claire's mind. Over with Kyle, Jack Abbott, and Diane Jenkins Abbott, they'll all return to the Abbott mansion next. Diane and Jack will invite Kyle to dine with them at Society, but he'll want to see Claire before he does anything else. At the Newman Ranch, Victoria will get plenty of support over Cole Howard's demise. As Victoria predicted, Victor won't be pleased over Claire going to see Kyle before her family, and will think it's clear where her priorities lie. In the park, Claire will accept Kyle's warm embrace and savor this moment of being together again. Kyle will wish he'd been there for Claire, and will wonder how he can help now, but just having him there holding her will be enough. Claire will pump Kyle for info on the trip and where things stand with Victor now. Kyle will dodge questions as best as he can, and won't think the details of his proposal before the trip are important either. Once Nate Hastings joins Audra at Society, they'll hug and try to process all the Damian Kane drama. Audra will wish she'd never gone to Nice, but Nate will wish he'd been there instead, and will feel like he might have been able to help. Back in the park, Nate and Audra will bump into Kyle while he's still chatting with Claire. That'll bring some awkwardness, especially once Kyle starts talking about the Vibranti setbacks in Nice. Audra will deny any company struggles and act like Kyle's mistaken when he hints about her investor considering pulling out. Even so, Nate will be suspicious in the aftermath on Thursday's Y&R episode and will feel like he's missing something. Audra will ultimately try to distract Nate with kisses since she'll want to reconnect after all that time apart. At the Abbott mansion again, Diane will worry about Claire's reaction to Kyle's near encounter with a former flame. Kyle had to go to the limit to expose Audra, so Diane won't think Claire's going to approve. Jack will feel like they just need to trust that Claire will side with Kyle after she hears about Victor's seduction. Despite Victor being a bit distracted by Kane Ashby, Jack won't think Victor's going to let up on Claire and Kyle. Back at Society, Diane and Jack will offer their condolences to Nate, who'll still be sitting with Audra. There'll be some tension between Audra and Diane, especially when Diane hints about the nice trip being full of surprises. After Jack and Diane take a seat at a nearby table, they'll continue their conversation about Victor, Claire, and Kyle. If Jack thought it would help Kyle and Claire, he'll confess that he'd consider an alliance with Kane to go up against Victor. Diane will seem surprised, but Jack will acknowledge that it wouldn't be so bad to knock Victor off his egotistical perch. When Kyle arrives, he'll admit to Jack and Diane that he couldn't tell Claire about Victor's scheme or what happened with Audra, at least not right now. Kyle won't think it's right when Claire is grieving and won't want to hurt Nate when he's mourning either. Back at the Newman Ranch, Claire will show up and embrace Victor. There'll be some talk about Cole's memorial service before Sharon steps away from the others with Nick, who'll seem fine other than a little soreness from his injury. Sharon will feel a bit out of place, but Nick will insist she's family and that he wants her there. When Sharon suggests they should talk about the kiss, Nick will shrug that they could talk about it or just wait and see if it happens again. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Nick and Sharon's bond will remain complicated in the coming episodes, so we'll fill you in on any other romantic news ahead. On The Young and the Restless, it seems like a revolving door the last few weeks, with 4 character deaths, including Damien, who had barely made a dent in his potential. So what does that mean for newcomers Billy Flynn and Nathan Owens? After a shocking entrance, not once but twice, Nathan Owens made his way to Genoa City. Viewers first saw him as Damien Kane, only to find out that he was actually Damien's best friend, Holden Novak. Aside from being Damien's BFF, Holden also worked for him. Together, they were employees of the infamous but mysteriously elusive billionaire, Aristotle Dumas. But just after moving to Genoa City to get to know more about Damien's family members, they were both abruptly fired. Shortly thereafter, Damien was invited to Aristotle's elite party in the French Riviera, and went to investigate why he was included. Meanwhile, Aristotle was revealed to be none other than Kane Ashby, now to be played by Billy Flynn. While his guests believed there was no way to leave his estate back in France, Kane managed to fly back to Genoa City, where he met with Holden. Kane instructed Holden to buy up select properties around Genoa City, told him his real identity, and gave him a list of people to befriend. Now that the party is over in Nice, Kane plans to come to Genoa City. Will he be staying? Will he still have use for Holden? While the show rarely speaks on contracts or statuses of its cast, viewers may have just gotten a clue. On the opening credits, both Flynn and Owens have joined to do the main titles. While most of the men in the opener are wearing tuxes or suits and ties, Kane is wearing an open-collared shirt with a suit, exuding his casual confidence. Conversely, Owens is looking debonair in his tux and bow tie. Is this a sign we can expect to see both men in town for a while? Kane hopes to reunite with Lily and is determined to show her an effort to prove that he has changed. As for Owens, he blatantly had his eye on Audra before she went to France, but viewers seem to prefer to see him Claire, The Young and the Restless. Spoilers for Friday, August 1st reveal that Tessa Porter will get some toddler help while Jack Abbott surrenders for Billy Abbott's sake. Phyllis Summers will also have a significant choice to make, so let's discuss what's coming up in Genoa City. For starters, Daniel Romalotti Jr. will catch up with Phyllis following that nightmare of a trip to Nice. When Phyllis defends Kane Ashby and still seems determined to work with him, that'll leave Daniel worried. Phyllis might also mention Billy's pitch for a new alliance, but Daniel may think that's risky since she's been burned by Billy before. Even so, it looks like Phyllis will choose to roll the dice with Billy and move forward with their latest partnership. It'll be interesting to see if that decision works out well for Phyllis or backfires in the end. Over with Jack, he'll decide to sacrifice something for the sake of his brother. Jack will surrender somehow, so this might relate to his earlier conversation about enabling Billy and holding him back. It's possible Jack will indeed walk away from both Billy and Abbott communications. However, Jack has also considered the possibility of joining forces with Kane, so maybe that could be how he surrenders instead. Perhaps Jack could become part of the team here, since he could support Billy and gain some help against Victor Newman at the same time. Kane hasn't proven himself trustworthy at all, but Jack may take the gamble anyway. In the park on Friday's Y&R episode, Tessa will enjoy a day out with Aria Porter Copeland, or at least she'll try to. It'll be tough without Mariah Copeland around, especially since Aria's been confused about what's going on with her other mom. Once Daniel comes along and spots Tessa with Aria, he'll offer some assistance. Daniel might be able to put a smile on Aria's face and distract her from any family drama. As for Tessa, Daniel will be there for her too, and will offer to listen if she needs to get anything off her chest. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that 4 August shockers may be brewing on the CBS soap. The drama's about to heat up in Genoa City, so let's talk about all the escalating conflict and devastating moments. For starters, Kane Ashby may want to dial down his smug attitude. No one ever goes up against Victor Newman and wins. At least, not for very long. Kane may think he's ready for the fight ahead of him, but he'd better think again. Victor and all the Newmans backing him up will strategize against Kane, who should have a major setback in his future. As for Lily Winters, things will get messy for her romantically now that Damian Kane is out of the picture. Lily has been adamant that she no longer has a future with Kane, but her heart may tell her something else deep down. Since Lily was already dreaming about Kane and Nice, those dreams may become stronger and more frequent back in Genoa City. Lily may not reunite with Kane anytime soon, but he may continue to invade her brain and deliver some stunning dreamy moments. Next, the countdown is on when it comes to Claire Newman's world getting upended. Kyle Abbott should have told Claire the whole story of what went down with Audra Charles right away, and may ultimately regret keeping secrets. Diane Jenkins Abbott has a feeling that when the truth does come out, Claire isn't going to approve of what Kyle did behind closed doors. Kyle made out with Audra while half naked as part of his trap, so Claire may feel betrayed. That's especially true since Kyle didn't come clean immediately, so it'll seem like he had something to hide. Claire may worry Kyle still has feelings for Audra, and she'll be upset over Victor's seduction scheme on top of everything else. There's no confirmation on how long it'll take all this to blow up, but Claire could find herself crushed before the month of August concludes. Of course, Audra is another character who seems to be headed for heartbreak. Nate Hastings may dump Audra over her plot to break up Claire and Kyle on Victor's orders. The fact that Audra's been lying to Nate won't work for him either, so all signs point to this Y&R couple's destruction soon enough. Fans of The Young and the Restless have recently seen a few deaths impact the soap. This, amid recent changes happening to CBS, has some fans worried about the fate of the soap. In fact, some fans are worried that the long-running daytime drama might soon come to an end. The Young and the Restless has been part of CBS since 1973. In 1987, the network premiered the soap's sister series, The Bold and the Beautiful. However, all things must come to an end. Recent events, both on the soap and in real life, have some fans worried that they've seen the last of stories set in Genoa City. Recently, quite a few characters have been killed off the soap. This includes Vincent Stalba's Carter and Connor Floyd's Chance. Fans expected Chance's departure to be significant, as Floyd recently joined the cast of Days of Our Lives as Chad. However, fans were caught off guard when the character was outright killed off, being shot during an altercation with Carter, especially with the impact it will have on the Chancellor family. That said, the number of killings on the soap really seems to have spiked. As one fan noted on X, Eve Howard's son, Amy Lewis and Nathan Hastings' son, Nina Webster and Philip Chancellor III's son, Jill's grandson, Paul Williams and April's daughter. That's a lot of characters with historical ties to burn off. As noted by Deadline, this also comes out as CBS has seen quite a few shakeups as of late, from layoffs to high-profile departures over the past few years. Norah O'Donnell recently stepped down as CBS Evening News' anchor. Wendy McMahon, the head of CBS News, also stepped down this past May. Many figures were also impacted by layoffs. This has included correspondents like Jeff Pegues and Pamela Falk, and even Executive Vice President and Head of Casting for CBS Studios' streaming series, Deborah Aquila. The shakeup also notably impacted the network's late-night lineup. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was recently canceled by CBS, with its final episode expected to air on May 2026. Nick Bernstein, the Senior Vice President of CBS West Coast late-night programming, also left in June 2025. The layoffs have been going on for quite some time. Back in early 2024, the New York Post reported that 800 CBS employees were laid off at one point. As for The Young and the Restless, fans have reason to believe that the soap will continue to run for the time being. Back in 2024, Variety previously reported that the soap had been renewed for the 2027-2028 season. That said, it's still possible for the soap to endure other cuts, including other actors and characters leaving the soap. After all, this makes sense if the issues are financially related. Of course, when it comes to soaps, characters dying off is to be expected, as is characters returning. Ultimately, fans will have to tune in to see what happens next in Genoa City. Laura Lee Bell's first thought when she found out her The Young and the Restless character, Christine Cricket Blair, was getting engaged to Michael Damian's Danny Romalotti? Finally, she tells People exclusively. The Young and the Restless merchandise Bell, 56, and Damian, 63, spoke to People ahead of their characters' big engagement, which will take place during the July 10th episode of The Young and the Restless. We were super excited, Bell says, because it's been 35 years in the making. 35 years is perhaps understating it. That's when Cricket and Danny got married for the first time in a destination wedding in Hawaii. Their romance first started years earlier via the then-teenage Cricket's crush on Danny, which eventually evolved into a relationship. Their marriage ended when Danny slept with a fan, Michelle Stafford's Phyllis Summers, who gave birth to their son Daniel. All these decades later, Cricket and Danny are reaffirming their love. Bell thinks it's perfect timing, since so many of the couple's original fans are in a different place in life and trying to remember parts of their lives where they felt safe and good. And we were a part of that time for them. And now, here we are, coming back into their lives when maybe their kids are now moved out or at college or whatever, Bell says. We're reminiscent of those fun days where we all feel like we're still young and we'd give anything to go back to that time. So we're just very grateful that that group has stuck with us and is going to be so excited. I think the nostalgia is really beautiful, and that's what they're connecting to as well, Damian says of the pairing's fans. I think that they're like, oh my God, finally! And we couldn't wait much longer because if one of us has to get down on a knee, perhaps it's not going to be any prettier in 10 years, Bell jokes. When Cricket and Danny reached super couple status in the late 80s and early 90s, Bell says, we would literally be out on weekends for public appearances, and that's where we would really see how crazy it was. That was fun, Damian, whose real-life musical career became part of Danny's character, remembers of meeting their loyal fans. Reflecting on what appealed about their fictional romance, the screen partners think part of the magic is that they have a lot of fun. The scenes that we had every day were extremely playful, Bell says. We were chasing each other around the apartment. We were putting ice down each other's backs. We were tickling each other. We were playing strip poker. We were doing things that really draw people in because they feel like they're watching your intimate moments. The fact that their romance played out over a very long period of time also helped fans become deeply invested, they agree. I also think it's so sweet about how at the beginning, you just wouldn't think that the little groupie girl would get the rock star, Bell says. So I just think that that was part of the excitement of, could they be? Would they be? Damian says their romance started out very sweet, very innocent, and credits Bell's dad, William J. Bell, who co-created the series with wife Lee Phillip Bell, for setting it up beautifully. Television show memorabilia. As for the couple's upcoming on-screen wedding, Neither actor knows what to expect. It's fun because I can imagine that there will be 6 people there, or maybe half the cast. I have no idea, Belle says. She promises to take fans behind the scenes on their journey down the aisle on her Instagram. Damien jokes that maybe Phyllis will let them marry at their house, but don't expect Phyllis to bowl the couple over. Belle says that in her months off-screen, with Cricket on Danny's world tour, Cricket became a badass. She doesn't care anymore about Phyllis's manipulations and jokes she might just backhand her. Despite their characters' on-screen animosity, off-screen Belle and Damien love working with Stafford 59. We were rehearsing last week, and an hour went by and we finally said we have to run lines because we were laughing so hard, Damien says. Belle says Stafford was nervous when she was hired in 1994 because she had to come between the inseparable Danny and Cricket. And she did it from day one, Belle says with admiration. I would hope for the people who've been waiting for the wedding that Phyllis will obviously be scheming something, but that nothing affects the actual I do, Belle says. Something is going to happen, Damien predicts. Maybe impersonating the priest. Amy Lewis will scream that Damien Kane isn't dead, so fans will see this devastated mom go into denial. Victor Newman will also threaten Kane Ashby. So let's talk about what's ahead on the CBS soap. At Crimson Lights, Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson will understand as Victoria Newman and Claire Newman talk about rescheduling Cole Howard's memorial service. Chelsea will sense that Claire's got a lot on her mind, so she'll take her to the park and sit with her. That'll give Claire to open up about her loss and get some words of wisdom from Chelsea as they bond. Meanwhile, Victoria will connect with Adam too and wonder where he learned to be so empathetic. Adam will credit Chelsea and Connor Newman with teaching him that. Adam will also assure Victoria of his family loyalty and suggest that whether they work together or apart, they can figure out Kane's true agenda and tackle the threat. On the train in Nice, Victor will push Kane's buttons over all the death and destruction that happened on his property. Kane will act like all he can do is move forward now, but Victor will call him a sleazeball and a young punk as he delivers some warnings. Victor will think Kane's attitude is going to get him in trouble before acknowledging that it already has. After some talk about Kane's real estate grabs in Genoa City, Victor will contend that no one wants him there. Kane will suggest it doesn't have to be this way, but he'll make it clear that if it's a fight Victor wants, then it's a fight he'll get. Victor will argue that he's Kane's worst nightmare and push him to stay away from Genoa City as well as his family. Back in GC, Adam will talk to Chelsea about Victoria responding to his emotional evolution and about Claire's struggles. Chelsea will point out that Kyle Abbott will be back to support Claire soon, but Adam will predict they don't have a future since Victor will never let their relationship last. Next on Wednesday's Y&R episode, Victor will call Adam and let him know that they'll be flying back from Nice once Nick Newman's released from the hospital. Now that Kane's declared war, Victor will insist he shall have one. Once Victoria and Claire make it home, they'll discuss Chelsea's support along with Adam's attempt to reach out. Although Adam was clearly out of his comfort zone, Claire will get Victoria to agree it was sweet. In the park, Amy will be in good spirits thanks to the beautiful day and her treatment paying off. However, Amy will sense that something's bothering Nate, who'll eventually admit that Damien died and won't be coming home from Nice. Amy will argue that's not true and will think she would have been notified first as the next of kin. Nate will explain that Lily Winters thought Amy should hear it from someone in person who could make sure she was okay. Amy will act like Lily's phone call must have been some sort of trick, but Nate will stand his ground and reiterate that Damien died. After Nate explains the details as best as he can, Amy will be horrified over Damien getting murdered because of his new connection to Lily. It'll leave Amy blaming herself since Damien never would have met Lily if she'd just left him alone. Nate won't think Damien would want Amy to hold herself responsible and will feel confident that Damien enjoyed their time reconnecting. Amy will cry about it not being enough, but Nate will insist they can grieve together and cling to her memories. After Amy shouts that she doesn't want memories, she'll add that she wants her son instead. Amy will go back into denial and act like she'd be able to feel it if Damien was really dead. Nate will look distraught as he ultimately pulls a sobbing Amy into a comforting embrace. The young and the restless spoilers say Amy will have a hard time wrapping her head around Nate's devastating news, so stay tuned for updates on how she'll cope. The young and the restless scoop for Wednesday, July 30th, reveals Amy Lewis will blame herself for her son's death. Also coming up, Nate Hastings will relay heartbreaking news. Plus, Victoria Newman and Adam Newman will bond, and Victor Newman will confront Kane Ashby. Reunite. Spoilers tease Victoria will tell Adam and Chelsea Lawson she and Claire Newman are delaying the memorial for Cole Howard. They'll start discussing Kane, and Chelsea will say she's a little out of the loop, so she'll ask Claire to go for a walk with her. Adam will tell his sister he's sorry she didn't have more time with Cole. Talk will turn back to Kane, and Adam will say his focus is on their family. So, together or apart, we have to fight like hell to protect what is ours. He'll say he's going to stop Kane in his tracks. Victoria can join him if she likes. It's nice to talk about something other than Cole, she'll reply. Adam will say Kane plans to move back to town, and they should make his homecoming one that he won't soon forget. Victoria will say she's going to put her efforts into fighting Kane. Cole would want me to be ready, she'll add. At the park, Amy will tell Nate it's a glorious day. Another day in the sun, another day to be grateful, she'll add. I have so much to live for. But she'll admit she's a little worried because she hasn't heard from her son. Then, Amy will apologize to Nate for going on and on. She can tell there's something on his mind. Amy, there's something important. That's not easy to say, he'll reply. So, Amy will wonder if her cancer has spread, but he'll tell her her numbers are good. Things got complicated in France, Nate will say, adding cell service was restored, and he spoke to Lily Winters. Amy will ask about Damien Kane. Damien died, he'll reply. He won't be coming home. Amy will immediately be in denial. It didn't happen. You can't even be sure it was Lily you talked to, she'll angrily reply. I want to talk to Audra. Nate will say he spoke to her too. Damien died. I'm so sorry. She'll ask if he was sick or if Dumas was punishing him. Nate will explain that someone on staff killed him. Damien and Lily got closer on this trip, and this man Carter thought Damien was standing in the way of his boss being with Lily. Nate will reply. Dumas is Kane Ashby, Lily's ex-husband. Amy will realize her son died because he cared about Lily. It was my greed that set this in motion, she'll say. If she hadn't tracked him down, he wouldn't have met Lily, and none of it would have happened. But Nate will tell her she's not to blame. He'll say they both have great memories of Damien. I don't want memories, she'll reply. I want my son. Then she'll tell Nate she would know if her son was dead. No, he is not gone, she'll say. My son is not dead because I'm still here. He's not dead. In France, Kane will talk to Victor in the main car. He'll ask how Nick Newman is doing. He's a fighter, like all the Newmans, Victor will reply. We don't go down easily, and when we do, we don't stay down for long. Kane will say the only thing he can do is learn from this experience. The only thing I've learned is what a sleazeball you are, Victor will say. Chance Chancellor is dead, Damien Kane is dead, and that freaky friend of yours is dead. That's your legacy. Kane will admit he feels terrible about everything that happened, but all he can do now is to move forward. You know who you're dealing with, you young punk, Victor will say. Watch your ass. Then he'll tell him no one wants him in Genoa City. He'll add he knows all about his real estate purchases. I know this is not your end game. I'll figure it out when I get back to town. Kane will say he was hoping for peace. But if it's a fight you want, you'll get it. Victor will say he's not his rival. He's his worst enemy. He'll warn Kane that if he does return to Genoa City, not to come after his family. Finally, Victor will call Adam and tell him Kane's not backing down. He's working with Billy Boy, Victor will add, and will crush them. I hope that's not a problem with Chelsea, because this man declared war, and he shall have it. Keep reading the Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless Spoilers and News. And make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. In the recent episode of the CBS soap opera, The Young and the Restless, aired on July 31st, 2025, Claire came back to Genoa City and chose to see Kyle first, ignoring warnings from Victoria and upsetting Victor. At the same time, Kyle kept quiet about Audra and Victor's actions, risking his relationship with Claire. Over at Society, Audra and Nate reunited, but their chat showed tension. Audra avoided Kyle's comments about business problems, while Nate started to suspect she was hiding something, especially after running into Kyle and Claire in the park. At the Abbott mansion, Jack and Diane worried about Kyle's choices. They weren't sure Claire would forgive him once the truth came out. Jack even thought about teaming up with Kane to stand against Victor, hinting at a bigger fight ahead. Claire and Victoria on The Young and the Restless talked at the Tack House, where Victoria gave updates about the family's return. But Claire was focused on seeing Kyle and wouldn't listen to Victoria's warning that Victor wouldn't like it. At the Newman Ranch, Victor, Nikki, Nick, and Sharon waited for Claire. When she didn't show up, Victor felt hurt and believed she was putting Kyle before her grieving family. Jack, Diane, and Kyle come home to the Abbott mansion on The Young and the Restless, still shaken by everything. Jack and Diane ask Kyle to join them at Society, but he says no, as he wants to see Claire first. In the park, Claire and Kyle hugged. She asked about his trip and Victor, but Kyle avoided the truth. He didn't mention Victor's plans or what happened with Audra, thinking Claire didn't need more pain while grieving. Still, keeping secrets could cause problems later. Nate and Audra met at Society and talked about the Nice trip. Nate wished he had gone with her, while Audra said she regretted it. They tried to move on, but the Damian Kane scandal still lingered. Later in the park, they ran into Claire and Kyle. When Kyle mentioned problems with Vibrante's investor, Audra denied it. Nate grew suspicious and felt she was hiding something. Audra tried to distract him with kisses, but Nate wasn't convinced. At Society on The Young and the Restless, Diane and Jack sat near Nate and Audra. Diane noticed tension between them and hinted that Audra was hiding more about the Nice trip. Jack worried about Victor's pressure on Claire and Kyle and said he might team up with Kane to protect Kyle. Diane was surprised, but understood. Jack felt Victor needed to be taken down. When Kyle arrived, he admitted he hadn't told Claire or Nate the truth. He didn't want to upset them while they were grieving. Diane feared Claire wouldn't handle the truth well, especially about Audra. But Kyle felt it wasn't the right time. At the Newman Ranch, Claire returned and hugged Victor. They shared a brief moment before talking about Cole's memorial. Nearby, Sharon and Nick talked alone. Sharon said she felt out of place, but Nick told her she was family and he wanted her there. When Sharon mentioned their kiss, Nick kept things vague and said they could just wait and see if it happened again. Sharon was left unsure of what it meant. Crystal Khalil delivered raw, powerful emotion as Lily navigated betrayal, heartbreak, and loss abroad on Y&R in July. Crystal Khalil gave a tour de force performance throughout July as The Young and the Restless took Lily Winters far from Genoa City and into an emotional firestorm in the south of France. When Kane's dark secrets unraveled in the most dramatic way possible, Khalil held nothing back, channeling Lily's devastation, fury, and confusion with aching precision. Whether facing Kane's web of deception, grieving Damian in real time, or wrestling with the shock of a deadly betrayal, Khalil kept viewers locked in and breathless. Her layered portrayal reminded us why Lily remains a cornerstone of the Y&R canvas. What started as a romantic escape quickly unraveled when Kane's revenge plot exploded into chaos and tragedy. Khalil's portrayal of Lily's slow-burning realization that she'd been manipulated again was heartbreaking. She conveyed the disorientation of betrayal without ever falling into melodrama, showing Lily's strength even as her heart cracked wide open. When she confronted Kane about the deaths he helped set in motion, Khalil's steely delivery made it clear Lily was done making excuses. The way she shut him down, eyes brimming with grief but voice unwavering, was one of her most commanding moments to date. Perhaps Khalil's most poignant scene came when Lily called Nate to tell him Damian was dead. Her voice trembled as she struggled to find the words, revealing Lily's guilt and heartbreak without overplaying it. She didn't just deliver lines, she carried the weight of the moment, allowing space for both pain and dignity. The way she framed Damien's murder and confessed to falling for him just before his death added another layer of complexity to her performance. Khalil showed us Lily's vulnerability and resilience, back to back, in one unforgettable phone call.